We're good to go.
It is my pleasure to welcome everyone to In Between, a conversation and Q&A with film director Maysaloun Hamoud. Today's event is the second in our fall 2020 lecture series, Breakout Debuts, an Israeli film series, featuring contemporary films from outstanding breakout directors. My name is Alex Jason, and I am the chair of the Skirball Department of Hebrew and Judaic Studies at New York University. I want to thank everyone around the world who has chosen to spend time with us today. We hope that you and your loved ones are healthy and well at this time. The event today is hosted by the Hebrew program in the Skirball Department of Hebrew and Judaic Studies at NYU and the Office of Cultural Affairs of the Consulate General of Israel, in collaboration with NYU's Taub Center for Israel Studies and Global Academic Center at Tel Aviv. The Skirball Department of Hebrew and Judaic Studies at NYU is the largest, the most comprehensive, and the most prestigious university-based department of Jewish studies anywhere in the world outside of Israel. The department includes 20 active full-time faculty members, specializing in all periods of Jewish history, from ancient to contemporary, in nearly all centers of Jewish culture across the globe. Faculty are leaders in their respective disciplines: history, religion, philosophy, literature, philology, and sociolinguistics, and especially Hebrew and Israel studies. Every year, the department's scholars publish multiple books and articles featuring cutting-edge research. A significant number of these publications have won coveted awards and prizes. The department has become North America's largest center for training future scholars, and alumni hold positions at leading universities and institutions around the world. The Taub Center for Israel Studies is an academic center within the department devoted to the study of all aspects of modern Israel. Similarly, we are close partners with NYU's Global Academic Center in Tel Aviv, which is a highly sought-after destination for Jewish and Middle Eastern studies, as well as technology and entrepreneurship. The Skirball Department of Hebrew and Judaic Studies and the Taub Center for Israel Studies regularly host academic programs in all areas of Jewish studies, and since the onset of COVID-19 in the spring, we have brought all of our programming online. We hope that you will come back to join us as we continue to offer online programming, and when we are all available, to join us on campus. This event could not have happened without the tireless work of several individuals. Let me take this opportunity to thank my colleague, Professor Ilona Ben Moshe, for all her work in organizing this film series. Thank you to Kirsten Howe of the Skirball Department, who dedicated so much time to making this event and the entire film series a reality. We are also very grateful for the ongoing collaboration with the Office of Cultural Affairs of the Consulate General of Israel and Daniel Zeus, Director of Film and Media in North America for the Consulate. And thank you especially to our two speakers today for joining us for this wonderful event. Thank you again to everybody for joining us today, and I look forward to an exciting and engaging conversation. I'm now delighted to introduce my colleague, Professor Ben Moshe, who will introduce our program for today.
Thank you, Alex. Hi, everybody. Shalom. In these times of pandemic, there's one positive outcome to the new normal. The world has become somewhat smaller thanks to the extensive use of video platforms. Consequently, we are able to have our guests from Tel Aviv and Frankfurt join us here today. First, let me introduce Maysaloun Hamoud, the director and screenwriter of In Between, in Arabic, Bar Bachar, and in Hebrew, Lo Po, Lo Sham. Maysaloun is a Palestinian who grew up in various places. She was born in Budapest, Hungary, moved with her parents to Beersheba in the Negev, and spent her formative years of high school in Dir Hana and Elabun in the Galilee. She did her undergrad studies at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. In 2004, Maysaloun started her film studies at Minshar School of Art in Tel Aviv to pursue her passion for filmmaking. She became a lecturer at Minshar after her graduation. Her film In Between, which she started developing as a film student, won significant prizes in Israel and internationally. To name a few, the NetPac Award for the Best Asian Feature Film in the 2016 Toronto International Film Festival, 3 different awards in the 2016 San Sebastian Film Festival, and Best Debut Feature Film in the Haifa International Film Festival. In 2017, she received the Women in Motion Young Talents Award at the Cannes Film Festival. While In Between was embraced by many, it created controversy in the Arab society in Israel. It was boycotted by the mayor of El-Fahim, the Arab hometown of the character Noor in the film. He declared Maysaloun to be heretical. In a particularly rare measure, which doesn't happen often in Israel, the Supreme Islamic Council issued a fatwa against Hamoud, arguing that her film is offensive to Islam. This resulted in threats on her life. Today, Maysaloun lives in Tel Aviv with her Israeli partner. Hi, Maysaloun.
Hi, wow.
Hi. Hi. For today's talk, we are pleased to have as moderator the film scholar, Dr. Laliv Melamed.
Hi.
Hi, Laliv.
Hi.
Laliv is a film and media scholar and a film curator. She earned her master's and PhD here at the Department of Film Studies at NYU and is currently a research fellow at Goethe-Universität in Frankfurt. She specializes in nonfiction and experimental media, and her research focuses on emerging media and state violence in Israel-Palestine. In her curatorial work, she has collaborated with Oberhausen Short Film Festival, Artport and Left Bank Cinema in Tel Aviv, and she's a senior programmer for Doc Aviv Film Festival. Welcome, Laliv. So I'll leave the stage to you. And I would just like to let the audience know that you can ask your questions in the Q&A button at the bottom of this screen. Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone, and good afternoon to you in New York. Good evening to us in Tel Aviv and Frankfurt. Maysaloun, it's a pleasure to talk about this film. I've been waiting for it for quite a while. And just one thing about how we're going to do it. So we're going to have a short conversation, you and me, and then later on we'll open it to questions from the audience. So we're very welcome. I mean, we want to welcome you to pose your questions if you have any through the Q&A function. And I want to start by asking about the different spaces that the film creates. So there is these mini geographies in the film. From, I think, the second scene, we're being introduced to the characters. Laila from Nazareth, Selma from Tershiha, Noor from El-Fahim. And Ilona already told us that there was quite a debate within the 48 Palestinian society in Israel about the film. So if you can talk a little bit about what you're trying to convey with kind of like creating these mini geographies.
First of all, thank you. I'm also excited to be here with you. So for us, I think it's not just Palestinian issue, but it's in the Middle East. From where are you says about you. So different, even close villages, each place has a specialty of its own. So when you say about somebody, he is from Nazareth, you already think about him in one way, and it's different if you say it's from Rene, which is 3 minutes from Nazareth. So it's a really says about you a lot if when you introduce yourself is where are you from. So this is the difference between the characters is also from each one from what where is come. And when you say tarshiha, so you think about something more progressive. When you say mufahem, you think about it more fundamentalistic. So this is it's a natural thing for us, and it's important also from where are you from.
I mean, we'll go back to this kind of like village politics that the film play with, but I want to continue with like thinking about the spaces. So one thing that I really liked about the film is the way you portray Tel Aviv. So first of all, there is this scene where Noor gives direction to her fiancé to get to the apartment. I was struck by it because the Tel Aviv that she speaks about is a pre-48 Tel Aviv. So she directs. Sorry?
It's a Nakba mentioned.
It's a Nakba. It's a Nakba Tel Aviv, right? She directs him how to go to the Yemenite village through Manshia.
Yeah, this is actually also, I grew up with mentions the villages that changed to Jewish places, but still, when you talk about a place, when you move over, you said this is the name of, I think, Tzomet Golani, the junction in the north, which is so close to my village. It's Miskana village. So just when I think went to the university, I start to say Tzomet Golani, like the junction of Golani, but I never heard somebody around me say that it's always Miskana. So it's the memory didn't die at all. Even we are the third generation, and now we have also the fourth generation, and the places that like Shajara, like all the a lot of the villages that destroyed it at 48 still alive in our talking, in our memories, of course, but it's something that didn't die. Yeah,
I mean, it's striking to me that the way you portray the city. I mean, yes, it's a Nakba geography, but also, Tel Aviv is known for for Zionist history. It's always called the first Hebrew city, but your Tel Aviv is not Hebrew at all, right? I mean, it's the city is being reclaimed, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it, and also about, it's not 48 Palestinians who are ghettoed to live in Jaffa. Actually, Jaffa is as I said, it's not Jaffa, it's Tel Aviv. Noor insists that she doesn't want to move to Jaffa, she wants to stay in Tel Aviv. So if you can talk a little bit about what does it mean for your characters to claim Tel Aviv? What does it mean to live in the city that is not the first Hebrew city, it's an Arabic city?
Yeah, but for my characters, like as representing the generation and of course community of that time at the beginning of the 2000, this millennium, it was individuals all over at the city, but it was in the community for those individuals that's going around in the city. And it's a rare that you meet a Palestinian that lives in the north of Tel Aviv or the center of Tel Aviv. it has to be or like pharmacies, like work in a pharmacy, giving you know medicine for the Jewish around, or somebody that works in a supermarket, but you don't see them around in your building. And after, I think, 2008, maybe at the beginning of at the end of 2008, something changed, and the war at Gaza brought all of those that spread it all the way in Tel Aviv to know each other and to start to go around. And then Jaffa began to be a center for this community, especially with the Honolulu bar that my movie started with, and now it's closed, and it's like a so painful time because it's the home of this community closed, and it's affected totally for the activity of all things that happened in this community of Palestinian and Jewish, not just Palestinian, but basically Tel Aviv was the place that you can hide. You can be there yourself without judgment, and to choose to live at Tel Aviv is to choose to be nobody, or somebody that you can be like the people around you, and you don't get, like be under the eye of every man or old woman that you just pass and she looks, where are you going, and all that. So I chose that because my character from the reality chose to be in Tel Aviv, to give themselves this space.
Yeah. So Tel Aviv is a space of liberation in a way, and especially, like getting away from the traditional society in which, I think the youngsters were still very much controlled by their families, by the elders, by the men. And then Tel Aviv is this space of freedom, but also not really.
An illusion of space.
Yeah, it's an illusion of a space of freedom. I mean, for me, it's really interesting because there were two things that were really really affected me in the film, and especially as a Jewish Israeli watching it. First of all, it's a film about 48 Palestinians that's defined by their own internal conflicts and not by the Jewish Israeli society. And for me, that was I think, like one of the most radical achievements of this film, especially because this film is produced within Jewish Israeli industry, and we're going to talk about it very soon. And the second thing is that in the film, all agency is given to the women, while the men are still attached by strings that are constantly being pulled by the strings of social decorum. That still very much belong with even the more quote unquote progressive men. I mean, so first of all, I wanted to ask you about what brought you to kind of like design these two really striking aspects, but also I wanted to ask you about you yourself as a filmmaker. That's a lot of weight to carry on your shoulder. And as we heard from Ilona introduction, there was a weight to carry.
So first of all, before in between, I think just we have Atash, thirsty, of Tawfiq, that he is
Tawfiq Abu Wael,
that he's also talking about Palestinians, 48 Palestinians, without putting the conflict in the topic of the movie. It's also talking about traditional family and all that aspects, and very feminist actually, Tufi. And he's the first one, I have to say, that took the Palestinians from the representing of being victims of the conflict, and that's it. And I am so blessed that I affected by Tufi a lot, and I thought always that the occupation and the conflict is there, even we don't need to talk about it in the front, because anything in our being is kind of affected from that. Just putting the women characters in the front and put them talk about themselves and their issues that important for them, not just what the man wants them to talk or to think about or to worry about. This is, I think, a very important say that we have to change that conversation all over from the Palestinian and Jewish cinema. When we talk about Palestinians, they have to be in just that space of conflict, occupation, politics in the law of representing of that. And I think we moved a lot from that point. That we are more mature as a society, as filmmakers, as a new filmmakers, that we want to change that talks about what is Palestinian stories. So and not always the Israeli is in the center. We don't need that to see us from your eyes. We can talk about us from our eyes, and to look inside also. And it's not always, I think, always it's not a beautiful and good for to look in yourself and to see that there is a lot of acne in your face, and to try to take it out. And this is, I think, one of the important missions that we have as artists, as filmmakers, to try to clean those acnes, and we have a lot. And you are also a big acne in our life, yeah. But there is also a lot of issues and topics that we need to talk about it. So from that, it's actually mirror of my life in that time that I start to find out what I want to say, what's the story that I want to tell. And it's just all over around me. I couldn't see something else. This is the issues now for my generation, for the like, let me say, the non-mainstream always population that we say Palestinians. So we have one simple of what is Palestinians. So from all that approach, I created that characters that representing that stories. Yeah.
I mean, I want to talk a little bit about what does it mean to make this film as a female 48 Palestinian filmmaker in Israel. And I want to contextualize a little bit your work, because I'm sure that some of our, some of the people that join us today are not, I mean, because it is really much a lot about the kind of like the politics of these mini geographies. So first of all, I mean, I think that there is a sort of buzz or a community of 48 Palestinians that are making top-notch films that are really out everywhere, but also, in the period where your films come out, and I remember it very vividly, there was like two major scandals. The first one was with Suha Araf, who declared her film to be Palestinian, and then got tons of fire from her Israeli sponsors. And then there was the scandal with Skander Kopti, who said, I'm not going to represent Israel because Israel does not represent
the Oscar.
Once again. And your film comes out right after these two major scandals, when the industry is suffering a lot because the person who was there, the person who was there, the Ministry of Culture, was Miri Regev, who was putting a lot of pressure on the funds, the Israeli film funds that funds all Israeli filmmaking, to kind of like step in line with the state ideology. In that climate, your films come out. Can you speak a little bit?
What say something about it's a crazy. You mentioned Miri Regev, and at that time, the collaboration between the al-Fahim's people that asked Miri Regev to shut down the movie, that was like, whoa, okay. It's actually like says everything. Like those from that fundamentalistic approach to us, to me, from like the Palestinians, gathering with and she doesn't even answer them, I think, but just the idea that to Miri Regev they want, they went. This is what this was like too. I don't know exactly what the word that I can describe that, but it was like disappointing in big time. Yeah.
I mean, we see that the strange alliances are formed in our part of the world. But I mean, the other thing that is really interesting that is happening at the same time, there is this amazing blossoming of young 48 Palestinian culture. And I'm thinking, I mean, you mentioned the Tel Aviv scene was this really like, amazing institute, the Analulu Bar, a bar that was open in Jaffa by 48 Palestinians and Israelis, some of them.
No, it was from two Israelis and Niva and Ilana, and my gang, it's called Communat Aza, took it from them when they moved to Berlin. And after I think 3 years, the neighbor up of the Lulu, he is a tycoon, and he made anything that he can to shut down the place, and he with his money he did it at the end, and it was a really important institution at all in the historical like when they will talk about this period, this place will be very important place to mention.
I mean, it was the space for an alternative form of living in Tel Aviv Jaffa,
not just Palestinians.
yeah. I mean, also queer culture in the city. I mean, it was a very important institute, and I think also about the scene that is happening in Haifa at the same time with the Jasser Group and the Haifa Independent Film Festival. So a group of 48 Palestinians that really, that are. Their interests and occupations varied from music and DJing to films, and they really managed to establish a very vivid and energetic and interesting independent scene in the city, in Haifa city, that is always, struggling for its cultural identity. And this scene is 100% Palestinian. And I remember talking to some people from the Haifa scene, and they said it's all for us to be able to reach out to other young, educated Arabs in the Arab world, a world that is closed and walled from us because of Israel. And I wanted to ask you, as a filmmaker, I mean, not only how you position yourself in relation to the Israeli industry, but also, I mean, is there a way to reach out to the larger Middle East through cultural production? Because I know a lot of 48 Palestinians are struggling with this.
Yeah, this is our, like trap, because we are Palestinians in our identity, and the very simple thing and natural thing that I can make music as now in the movie. The musician is from Beirut, and he's a very famous, but because of the non-collaboration and forbidden actually collaboration between Lebanon and Israel, even I am a Palestinian filmmaker, director, he couldn't put his name, and it's a like a fake name for the score music in the movie. But this is the story that we cannot have naturally projects with the Arabs around us, even we are so close in our ideas, things that we like, things that we think, things that we want to do. Because I am Israeli as identity of citizenship, but I am Palestinian from nationality. So I cannot have money from Arab like Tunisian or Beirut or any other funds there. But now maybe Dubai, suddenly something changed, and I don't wanna. I don't want to say what I think about that places, but at least we cannot have the simple thing that we need to do with the countries around us. Like imagine that we can even Egypt, that we have peace agreement with Israel. It's normalization. But I am a Palestinian, but because it's the money for the productions Israeli money, so it's an Israeli production. Even it's a Palestinian stories with a Palestinian director. So it's so mass, and it's not just me, it's all of us who live and still taking money for our work from the Palestinian funds, from the Israeli funds, because this is the only that we can have. So it's very tough, all that. And because and another level for especially for my work, because I'm not talking as usual, as we said before, about the occupation and about victim stories. I can say nobody, like from when I was raising money for the movie, nobody could understand where is the occupation, where is the conflict, Israeli, where is how we can what are they normal people, like with a with like stories about human people, human bodies, but like, so it's so tough to bring money from the other, like even at Europe, even at US, they couldn't understand what this animal, what is this creature that coming from Israel, Palestine, with a Palestinian director, and it's not about the occupation. So, and also actually now when I face that for my show, a TV show that I'm working on, it's like the movie, but in like speeds, you know. It's a criminal comedy, dark comedy, and it's a genre like we all of us like Tarantino, David Fincher, all the but they are Palestinians with a lot of struggles, a lot of obstacles, a lot of humor, and the war behind. It's 2008, as I mentioned, it's the beginning of the scene, and Kais and Saleh from the movie are main characters in the TV series, and Maisa Abdelhadi, the amazing actress. She is the female lead character, and it's also the same problem. Nobody understand how we can give you money for something that it can be at Paris and Berlin, and other places, what is special that without any talking about the conflict, what we can do with that? It's really a problem for me. Like I understood it now more and more when I face the thing about the TV show, that I have always to put eyeglasses for content that bring the politics of the conflict, of the history of Palestine, Israel, to make the people listen. It's difficult.
I mean, I'm well aware of this trap, and like when we were talking before, when we were exchanging some emails before a conversation, I told you, but I want to ask you about what does it mean to be a 48 Palestinian filmmaker without turning you to a representative of what we can, like the way we imagine what it means. Because what I realize is that so often, even within this industry niche, the way that you need to pitch a project, even an unfinished project, you always need to satisfy different needs. But one of it is like, if you're a 48 Palestinian, you need to talk about the occupation. You cannot talk about romantic comedy. You cannot talk in noir form. You need to talk about war, and you need to talk about victimhood, and you need to talk about conflict.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the film's biggest achievement is creating this, fullness of world that, as I said, speak its own language, has its own geography, but is not predetermined by the conflict, predetermined by the Jewish Israeli society, predetermined by the Israeli state. I do see that we have some questions. So what I suggest is that maybe we'll try to respond to some of them. And then, I still have like plenty of stuff I want to ask, but I do want to kind of like integrate our audience.
And
So
actually, like we have more 15 minutes, I think, something like that.
we have some more time. We have, I think, like around 30 minutes or so. I mean, let me read to you what I have here in the Q&A. So Stefan, I mean, I'll read people's name if that's okay. Stephen Katz asked, in the film, the potential male partners are all depicted negatively. There is not one male who is a positive model. Was that done on purpose, and why?
First of all, he forgot Noor's father, which is very positively and very important, very, very important for me. The response of Noor's father for her asking him to give her a hug in being a father for her, and he totally were a pure father. This is so positively. And when I come to critique the patriarchy, and the patriarchy basically is ruled by men. So we need to critique all those different actually kind of men that we can see in the movie, each of them representing like a huge enormous kind of men that we know from our life in like even in the village or in the city, like who think about himself as a progressive and he is not. And this is, I think, the sickness of a lot of the guys, that they thought about themselves, that they just made the step forward from their family, step forward from their village and live in the city and all that. Or even they came from New York or anywhere else abroad, but deep inside they didn't leave the village at all. And like I can say 80%, I don't want to say more, but 80% of the guys around live this like fake. And of course the character of Wissam, the fiance, representing a lot of unfortunately men that we have around us. And so I'm sorry that I have to show those negative characters of men, but this is the reality and we have to talk about it.
I mean, I think that patriarchy is a very pervasive thing. No, I mean, it doesn't stop where like only with those that are like, subscribe to it. So like a person like him, and this is why I think Ziad's character, so Layla's lover, is the most interesting one in that sense, because I mean, he kind of like liberated himself from like this traditional rule, but then completely subscribed to it in a very implicit way, right? He won't tell Layla, oh, I want us to get married and then you'll be, but maybe you should stop. Yeah. So I think that, I mean, another way to kind of like address it is the fact that, I mean, this is so pervasive, the kind of like the patriarchal rule, that there is no space to kind of like, think complexities. Mm-hmm. Another question from Deborah Veach, I hope I pronounce it right. How accurate is the portrayal of the counterculture life of Palestinians? Were you part of the counterculture? And I think it's important to kind of like maybe map it a little bit more.
Again, the question?
The Palestinian counterculture within Israel.
I think,
maybe, Maysaloun, can I ask you, because can you talk a little bit about how it is today? I mean, maybe under COVID it's a bit difficult, but I mean, because the film was made
the Palestinian scene.
Yeah.
First of all, this is a very this year. It's a totally a death for the activity of all the scenes. I don't think that just the Palestinian underground is sleeping. I think mostly everything is dying now or sleeping, let me say. But it's not different from the other underground scenes in all over the world. At Berlin, actually, maybe more than 50% of the Palestinian underground now moved to Berlin. Actually, really, a lot of and this is also, at the movie. I put Berlin, but it wasn't like now all the people at Berlin. So it's the same as I said, as Beirut, as Cairo, as Tunisia, as Paris, as all the places that there is activists with artistic approach that we didn't, invented this since the 60s, since all that, let me say, movement against the war at the Vietnam. Here we have our wars, but the same approach, that drugs, music, and let me say drugs, art, and resistance, and the movement of the Arab Spring, all the young people who actually started all that resistance, it was in the social media and in the bars and in that all that underground gathering from all the countries, and this is how it started actually, and moved all that people out. But it's all started in these activists that wanted to change the world, and we are not different from those all over the world. And I think comparing for the products that coming from Palestinian underground and Palestinian artists, activists are like a lot, comparing the number of us as a small scene at the end, but we have a lot of musicians, we have a lot of filmmakers, we have a lot of artists in other sections, and but I think now there is a feeling of more and more tightness. It's like there is nothing, like there's nowhere to breathe a lot for like to be a Palestinian. You always have, as you said, to how we said, negotiate and to create things that the Israeli has can see that you are a Palestinian, not just a human, so all that you want, like one of my friends, Rosine, she's Rosine Sharat, and her husband is Sa'a Sekali. They are also moved to Berlin. She said a sentence that I think this is said everything. At Berlin, Rosine, and there is a lot of, let me say, Rosines around me. Everybody is special in his way, and that me as a Palestinian movie maker and live with an Israeli or a Jewish, it's wow in our place. Like it's how I can say, it's like a creature that you can come and look at. Oh, they are like a special, yeah, but you cannot be just yourself here and just live and just be. You always with a label. You always have to represent something. You have to you cannot talk about like just as I said, simple things and important things. For you as a human, you always have to be a Palestinian or Israeli, and it's heavy to always represent and to always me as in my being. I all my like beliefs and all my thoughts can be in anything I can do, but it's not always has to be in my like representing. And now more and more I think Palestinians, and also before that Israelis also think that it's heavy to be here and to create and to do things without this all, you know, a Zionist talking or the Palestinians talking, all that. So it's, I think it's a stage, it's a period that we pass, all of us now.
It's interesting, Maysaloun, because having moved, I mean, you know, my position is very different than yours. And I think that's, you know, living in Israel as a 48 Palestinian, especially, you know, living outside the kind of like enclosed spaces of you know, 48
Yeah.
Palestinian society. And I mean, you always need to represent, and it's a burden. But then, I mean, for me, it's interesting how there are always these kind of like, getaways, you know, so Berlin is a destination to kind of like be liberated from these identity politics. And it used to be New York that was the space where you can be liberated.
Yeah, but Berlin is closer, you know, so because of that.
I know that Germany is closer.
yeah, of course.
I mean, there are a lot of questions here about, I'm curious what would be your answer to this. There's a lot of questions about the characters' smoking habits, and I have the feeling that the answer is also related to this kind of like notion of counterculture.
I you know, the cigarettes as a phallic, you know, figure that since always it was a forbidden for the women in the conservative societies. So I put the cigarette for Layla more basically, but the action of smoking is so simple, and it's so, you know, a non-issue for a man, but when a woman do it, it's an issue. So I as a choosing like what I want to do or what I don't want to do is basically if to smoke or not. But when a man see a woman from those conservative societies, see her smoking, it's like a scandal. And I want them to you know, not to feel so good, to ask themselves why is a problem when Layla is smoking, but if Ziad smoke, it doesn't matter.
And there are also, I'm sorry, I'm combining a few questions because there's some repetitions and also so we will be able to attend everything. There were some questions about would you see some parallelism between your protagonists that are, Palestinians and maybe Jewish protagonists coming from similar background or similarly conservative background, and what similarities, what do you think is specific to?
First, I think the stories in my movie are totally universal. It's, of course, my stories as a particular Palestinian woman have to be those women from my society, but as Noor, as Layla, and Salma, there is all over the world same stories, same characters, and it's not surprising me when I met the people, men and women, in the festivals all over the world, that they saw themselves inside the movie. It's basically all the societies all over the world has the same issues, had the same problems, and the Western societies think that they are more progressive than like the Arab society or all that, but we know that it's not the reality, because in the statistics you can see all the violence or the discrimination, all the struggling of women rights all over the world. So for sure, the Layla, Salma, and Noor representing the women all over the world, not just Palestinian or Arab women.
I mean, I want to pause here and ask you about the film ending, which is something that I kind of like. First of all, I wanted to ask you about influence, maybe, because it reminded me of very kind of like, like the end of the 400 Blows by Truffaut. So when the character is looking at the camera and it's kind of like a reflection on, I mean, it was read again and again as a reflection, the protagonist looking back at the camera as for us to reflect on the social structure in which we live, and there is a sense of disillusionment. So I mean, they reached this. I mean, they came together, the protagonists, despite their differences, and they are fighting a battle, but they fight it together. But still, the end of the film, there is a sense of a bitter disillusionment, and and then them looking directly at the camera, at us.
Yeah, exactly. They look at us, but also it's a moment that will not going to be again for them, because they become to be a one woman after all, in those sisterhood solidarity, but each of them will go again in her own way, and they will spread again. But this moment of like winning with a lot of pain, each of them passed a lot in her arc in the movie, and this is just another moment in their life. It's not a big moment, it's not a dramatic moment, it's another moment, and they will just continue, and they look at us as, okay, we will stay here in the cinema, struggling for our rights that we want, and what about you as audience? This is I think a very important moment for those three young women.
And I think for us as viewers, right, this look back that reflects on us and ask us to kind of like to position ourselves. There were a few questions about the intersections of the fictive characters in real life. There was one question, I mean, reading through the questions that the audience is sending, there was a question about Noor character and how much her story is informed by real life experience of you and your surrounding.
All the stories, all of them, just just I didn't need to go and research a lot, it's all the stories around. Just a small there is a lot of stories that we didn't tell yet, but it's like it's a fiction based on real stories. All like it's not like a curtain story about nude. Like there is a girl about her name, I don't know, something like, and no, but this actions and this violent are happening all the time, all around, and Layla is representing a bunch of women that liberated themselves, and they like my daughter name is Layla, and it's I think my alter ego name. It's the women that chose her own way and cut out from the traditional society, and burned the bridge behind. And you can find a lot of women around like Layla, but we didn't see those at all in the cinema and in the stories. And as we talked before, we saw just one color of women, of Arab women, and Salma of course, representing the gay community, and we have in the underground, the Palestinian underground, very very alive gay community, and we never before has those as main characters, if we had it. So all of them are real.
There is another question here. I mean, because we talked a little bit about the difficulty of raising money and producing this kind of work, and there is a question here about Shlomi's involvement. Shlomi El-Kabatz, your producer, which I also think it's a very very interesting alliance that happened here. So if you can talk a little bit, about his involvement. I know that you had a very deep working relation. So if you can.
Shlomi was my teacher in the cinema school, and from the underdog life, let me say, we met. He is a Mizrahi, like a Arab Jewish gay. and a Palestinian woman, like liberated Palestinian woman, meet each other, and we met and found that we think and we like and we want same things, most in the different fields, and me and Shlomi has a very very special connection as a filmmakers, but as a human beings in first. So he never thought to be a producer, and he is a director by himself, and of course writer and director, and his work is so important, and with his beloved sister Ronit El-Kabetz, they have their trilogy, and suddenly I came with a crazy idea about those three women, and because we were so close, and I asked him just to look about, like to read it and to tell me what he is thinking about that, and he loved it so much that it makes him think to be a producer. So his first time to produce was in the movie, and we connect to work with each other, and we have a lot of plans for the future. But he's also the producer for the show. That it's made for Hot TV, but he is the producer, and we have this special way to work together, and we, like, both of us are like different creature inside the Israeli cinema industry, and I think we have like a very powerful collaboration.
One last question that I'll take from the Q&A, and then I have one last question on my side. But Amy Leland, right, there is very little experience of Tel Aviv as a city, which is something that I'm not sure about. As someone who lived many years in Tel Aviv, I did feel it, as I could see my city there. But so there is very little.
The city is mostly indoor. Like
that's exactly what she asked.
Yeah, but this is also, of course, by saying that the city is how can I say, like honeket?
It closes on you.
Yeah, it's
closing in on you.
Yeah, because it's white, and and privilege, and just all the representing different show, like me as a new neighborhood, as living in a new neighborhood, which is it's a funny Eshan, the old North Tel Aviv. I feel like alien, I have to say.
Yeah.
Like I go out with my dogs, and my dogs understand Arabic because I am their mother. And anytime I'm talking with the dogs, everybody like just listen Arabic, just look like something wrong is going around, and I cannot see anybody like me. I cannot feel comfortable around like this is. So the city is making you feel so outsider. Then just inside you can feel more comfortable in this city. So the castle of those girls are the apartment. Wow, the apartment of the girls is the safety place that they can feel there.
I mean, it's really interesting, and this is why I said I want to think about this question, because it's true that most of the film is being shot inside, and there is this dynamic of uptown and downtown in Tel Aviv, like in any other gentrified city these days. And it is a very white city that closes on you. But also, I mean, from your film, it is a very Mediterranean city. So like the the inside is not closed. I mean, I was thinking about the scenes shot in the protagonist's family's houses are always much more enclosed. They're much more claustrophobic.
Comparing to that,
yeah, in like Selma's family house, I mean, all the family dinners are in these very close spaces. There isn't even a window. So in that sense, I mean, you know, once again, I thought that, you know, the portrayal of Tel Aviv, even within closed spaces, was, I mean, it had something very open and very interesting. And in that sense, I could really recognize how you claimed the city. And you claim the city for its underground. And I think that's really, I mean, for me, that was a huge achievement of the film. And I think also it's not just claiming the space, it's then about, like, you know, the larger voice that the film articulates, you know, that, you know, claim presence and claim language and claim history and claim culture.
This is like inside the clothes shop, and in the bar, in the all the places that the girls went inside Tel Aviv, reflecting the looking at them as a Palestinian from that Tel Avivian approach. So it's so there, the city, from those places.
There are still lots of questions that we didn't have time to touch upon because I think we're running out of time. Ilona, correct me if I'm wrong. I do have like one last question to you, but I'm also going to leave the Q&A open for you to read afterward. Also, there are like some, you know, comments on how people felt when they watched the film. The dogs also, I see.
I know.
But I do wanted to ask you about, like, you know, the future for you. I mean, you mentioned that now you're working, you know, with commercial TV in Israel. It's a very swift move, you know, from like a semi-underground film that talk about underground character to, you know, prime time.
It will just continue, just in 11 episodes. It's the underground is coming with me to the television, and it's gonna be I think a big surprise next year for all the world, the show, because it brought those characters, but like female leading character, Saleh as the gay character, and Kais as the macho male character, and we gonna go with them in a like high-speed trip, with a lot of politics, a lot of funny situations, a lot of you know, I think also enjoying cinema in as a genre that we. This is the first time that a woman, Palestinian Arab woman, make a show in Israel and in the Arab world. Like it's a rare in the world, let me say. So it's a four years of working, and I have next month the last shooting actually for the show, and we are supposed to show up at the 1st of March. So I can tell that it will make big conversations and a lot of let me say scandals, if we can call it like scandals, and a new level. I mean, a new level of creation, and like it's in the topics and in the format. Like it's also those characters also in this way of telling the stories as a genre, and also those topics inside the show, controversial for sure. So I'm so exciting, and I cannot wait that the show will go out, and the world can enjoy it too.
I mean, would the show be available for people outside Israel?
Yeah, I hope, but I believe yes, because we are in the, as I said before, in those negotiations about selling the show, all that questions about where is the occupation, where is the conflict, where is, so I face it real, like now in the approach to sell the show, because it's stories about young people, but they are Palestinians, with their own culture, with their own issues, with their own, but they are young people, like it's called dreamers now. It's a contemporary, but they are dreamers as young people all over the world. But it's not even like, it's not something that people can understand yet.
Maysaloun, with this promise for like future dreamers, I wanted to thank you again for the film, for this conversation. Before we say goodbye, I think Ilona wants to tell us about the next film featured in the series. But thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, thank you, Maysaloun. Thank you, Laliv, for this fascinating conversation. Maysaloun, I'm waiting for your next scandals. So thank you for our audience. I would like to remind you that on the weekend of December 12th, we'll show the movie Outdoors by Asaf Saban, and we'll have a similar conversation on Sunday, December 13th at 1:30. So have a wonderful rest of the weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you.